Being fat used to be rare between the 60s and 70s, but now obesity is a global public health crisis. And it wasn't willpower or discipline that changed. My name is Adam, I'm a performance nutritionist. After spending hundreds of hours looking at the fat loss research and data from my own clients, I'm going to tell you what's actually changed. If I ask you right now why, you'd probably give me one of three answers. It's the sugar, it's the ultra-processed food, or it's the seed oils. Because some video told you that seed oils are secretly the reason the fat's been sitting on the midsection for a decade. And I hear it on discovery calls. I hear it from friends, even from family members at Christmas who watched one video or podcast from a doctor last week and suddenly they're the expert in the room. But the reality is a good chunk of this comes from people online who know this isn't true, but they say it anyway because outrage gets more views than accuracy. Negativity sells, especially when it's coming from people who are perceived experts. So if you're a returning viewer, you will know that I once believed one of these three myself when I started out. I was so sold on it that it cost me most of my muscle and a lot of time. When I got started into lifting, I wanted to put on as much muscle as possible. I went from 128 pounds to 272 pounds. I bulked way too hard and I ended up around 35% body fat. And then, one day on a bodybuilding forum, a guy told me the fix was simple. Cut carbs completely, eat 6 meals a day, protein and veg only. Oh, and no fruit, he said, because even bananas were going to spike my insulin and blunt fat loss. He was jacked and very lean, so I took his advice, naive to the fact that he was juiced out of his mind. Then I lost 90 pounds in 4 months. But I'm convinced I lost every pound of muscle and strength I had along with that fat. And it took me years to get that back. But first, I regained 80 pounds of fat that I now had to lose properly. So this isn't me just talking down to you from somewhere I've never actually been myself. I've stood exactly where you're standing, blaming exactly what you're blaming. And by the end of this video, you'll know which of the three suspects actually did it and which ones just happened to be standing nearby when it happened. So in 1960, roughly 1 in 8 American adults were obese. By the late 70s, still about 1 in 8. Then something changed. By the late 80s, closer to 1 in 4. By 2008, it's over a third. And today, it's past 4 in 10. As you can see, that's not just a slow drift caused by an entire population losing its willpower. That's a hard bend in the line, and it started at a specific point for a specific reason. But it isn't some mysterious plot, and it's not down to a single ingredient. No matter what the gurus suffering from cognitive dissonance will tell you, our bodies still run on calories in versus calories out. Nobody has broken that equation. But what changed was what got put in front of you and how hard your body now has to work to burn any of that off. Now, once men hear all that, most will still go looking for one villain to cut out completely. And my client Hossam did exactly that. He came to me convinced it was carbs. Then he was also convinced it was seed oils. And every time he cut one or both out, the fat did come off. He lost weight. But then a few months later, it came straight back on, and he had no idea why. Because the reality was carbs and seed oils were never the actual issue in isolation. Instead, he was removing an entire food group, suffering through sheer restriction for a while, and then life got busy again, and the environment he actually lived in reasserted itself. And the processed food was still there. So was his desk job, and so was his car. But he never dealt with any of that. He just tiptoed around everything and just carried on until he couldn't. But when Hossam lost 50 pounds, and he's kept it off to this day, he ate carbs and he didn't obsess over removing seed oils. And that's consistent with the pattern I see in food diary after food diary, over 1,000 of them at this point. It's rarely one ingredient, but it's just a mismatch between what the environment keeps offering you and what your body actually needs. When you cut out a food group, it doesn't fix the mismatch. It's just a matter of time until you're back to square one and you're unsure of what actually happened. Now let's start with what's actually on the plate, because this is the strongest piece of the puzzle. Researchers put 20 adults in a research facility and gave them 2 diets, matched exactly for calories, sugar, fat, and fiber. One was built from whole, minimally processed foods, but the other was built from ultra-processed food. You know, that's ready meals and packaged snacks, all designed to be eaten fast and eaten often. They had the exact same calories on paper, and nobody was told to eat more or eat less. Just eat until full. On the ultra-processed diet, people ate an extra 500 calories a day without even noticing, and they gained weight within 2 weeks. But switching them to the whole food diet, the weight came straight back off. And nothing to do with anyone's willpower. They didn't change across the 2 weeks, but the food did. It's built to be eaten faster in bigger unconscious bites before your body gets a signal to stop. It's a $1 trillion business. But that kind of food barely existed as a daily option before the 80s and 90s. And now there's a drive-through every half a mile, and snacking is just a normal part of your day. People have snacks in the offices, on the road, in their car, in their bags. They have healthy snacks, even like protein bars at 250 calories plus. As you can see, that's not you or some single ingredient. That's a completely different food environment from the one maybe your parents lived in. Definitely from the one your grandparents ate in. Now here's the part that doesn't fit neatly on some thumbnail. Men carrying obesity sit on average about 2.5 hours more a day than lean men of the same size, and that can account for maybe 300 or even more calories of daily movement your body just isn't doing anymore. Of course, nobody wakes up and decides, today I'm going to burn 300 calories fewer. But it just happens because your job moved from being an active job to sitting at a desk. And your town, it got built for a car instead of your feet. So there's no reason to walk anywhere unless you actually schedule it deliberately. Again, that's not you necessarily being lazy, but it's what a normal day looks like now, and it's nothing like 1970. This one's fun. Seed oils. And the strongest piece of evidence against them is actually a study from the 1960s that compared them to saturated fat and found them worse for heart health. Except the actual margarine used in that study was up to 40% trans fat, which we've known for decades is harmful, and that has nothing to do with the seed oil itself. And of course, people leave out that detail. But then when you look at the wider evidence, seed oils just don't hold up as some uniquely toxic ingredient. If anything, the case against saturated fat is stronger. And you're not wrong to be suspicious of where seed oils usually turn up. They normally hide in, I say hide, they're normally in biscuits, chocolates, crisps, the same ultra-processed food we've already talked about. The stuff that's very hard to stop eating once you start. Think of Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. It's pretty true. It's true with most ultra-processed foods. But now you're blaming the wrong ingredient in the right food. And it's the same story with sugar. You swap sugar for other carbs of the exact same calorie total. They did it in a controlled trial, and weight didn't move either way. Insulin isn't doing what you told it was. It's a total calories doing all the work. But of course, sugar isn't innocent. It's rarely sitting alone on your plate. Think of donuts, high in sugar, also high in fat. Think of biscuits, same story. Think of most things that are ultra processed and easy to overeat. They're foods we've already talked about. So when you cut out the sugar, you often cut the calories with it, and the credit goes to the wrong thing for the result you get. Now back to the bodybuilding forum that was very popular in my 20s. It was either bodybuilding forums or bodybuilding magazines for the research that most people carried out. A stranger's opinion and a bit of folklore repeated often enough so it starts to sound like facts. And that was what was available, like I said, to most people trying to figure this out. Nowadays, anyone serious about it can actually read the studies or follow the people who break down individual trials properly instead of just shouting a headline with maybe a doctor in front of their name. So think about this. We have dramatically better information than I did growing up. Probably you did growing up. Way better than that forum when it comes to losing fat, when it comes to anything health related even. Information was never the actual bottleneck. If it was, we'd be watching at number 4, not climb past 4 in 10. You can know exactly what's true and still lose because the food in front of you and sitting was built to win almost every time. So no, this generation isn't necessarily weaker or lazier than the one before it. It's living in a food environment and a physical environment that was built against them. And we are better armed with information than any generation before, yet still losing by default. The fix was never shame. And it was never going to be finding the one food to cut out forever. It's building a life that doesn't need willpower to fight through every single environment, every single day. Because if you try to willpower your way through, you will lose that fight. Everyone does at some point. And one way to drastically improve your food environment is to automate your meals. In this video, I break down the same 5 meals that I've been eating for over 3 years to stay at 15% body fat. I'll see you there.